Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Ope-Eh three-way pro wrestling podcast. As always, I am Brandon, joined as always by my boys Donnie and Pierce. Fellas, how we doing today on this NFL kickoff? What day is it today? Thursday. Oh my God.
Thursday,
I
yeah, we're
just
back on the Thursday. We flipped
Nacho,
from the Wednesday, and then we're on the Thursday, and then we're on the Wednesday, and then you guys had shit to do yesterday, so we're back on NFL kickoff Thursday.
Well,
So,
hey, it wasn't shit. We were in fucking AEW Dynamite.
oh,
surprisingly
potato,
not shit for
potato.
It
It
was a
depends on how
really
you
good
thought of the
Dynamite.
show.
yeah,
What's up?
AEW TV standards. It was arguably the diamond of the year, I would say.
Oh my
I would
God.
love to see anything try to top what we were at last night.
Come on.
It was a really good show.
Was Austin Theory on the show? Is that why you're all in on this,
No,
Brandon?
no, he didn't. No, he didn't cross the line. Austin Theory is not all elite. No, no, and
Uh,
I hope he's not because I still have it on my agenda for within the next 12 to 18 months that I'm going to be making this full 60-minute length episode where I'm rubbing it in your face, particularly, Don, since you like to bring this up every single week. So just remember, I'm
it's a
keeping
thing.
receipts. I'm keeping receipts, Bubba. Come on,
I will
just keep
gladly
that. Keep it coming.
I will gladly
I'll
let you
clip
take
it.
all of those receipts, and then you can have your Costanza wallet by the end of next year.
There it is. Looking
All
forward
right.
to it.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about your
Hey,
guys' night at Dynamite last night in Wisconsin. We'll talk
I got
about
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Is that how we say
No,
it? Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. It's out mountain
Milwaukee.
or the good
Milwaukee.
land.
Okay. I need some
It's very
education
good
still
land.
on Wisconsin culture. So we'll talk about all out a little bit. Excuse me, because that comes out. That's this weekend. Which okay, we're still doing PPVs every 2 weeks, and Tony Khan assumes everybody's got $100 USD to shell out for these. But we'll review Bash in Berlin really quick, and we'll see if we have some time to squeeze in No Mercy before the kickoff. Follow us on socials, Facebook, X. Assuming you get away from all the bots and the propaganda. We're on X. We're posting some stuff here or there. Did you guys post any photos from your night on there? Maybe we should
Not
share
just
the
yet,
love a little
no.
bit.
I
Maybe if
haven't.
you could share some on there if you can.
I did
Hopefully,
tweet. I did tweet MJF after the show. I started a chant saying he's bald, and I got quite a few people to do it with me, and he did not look too happy about it.
dope. He is bald. Daniel Garcia talked about him being bald, right?
He sure did.
Hell yeah. Yeah, follow us on there. Hopefully, you don't get any copyright strikes for putting up AEW content on there. Anyways,
Well,
uh,
thanks for this, Donnie.
I gotta be my gimmick, man. I just gotta be a big hater all across the board. But Pierce, kick us off with what do we had on this day? September 5th, at some point in history.
Oh, geez, I got September 4th.
It's the 5th, man.
And my days are all screwed up. I apologize.
All right.
So it's not on this day, but
It was on a day.
Yeah, on a day.
That's
We'll call it September 4th.
okay.
On that day.
1987. Macho Man Randy Savage defeated King Kong Bundy in the finals of the third ever King of the Ring tournament.
The King of the Ring in September back then.
They had it randomly. I mean, the first one I think was like in 1984. Like it
Really?
didn't have a set pay-per-view at that point. From then on, he would be known as the Macho King, Randy Savage, until his quote-unquote retirement match at WrestleMania 7.
Okay, but not his actual retirement.
Right, because he wrestled that next year, and then for a long time after that.
Yep. Okay, Macho King.
Kind of a big one after that. 1995, WCW broadcast the first ever Nitro from the Mall of America.
Yeah, that is a big one.
This Nitro was remembered obviously because it was the first ever one, but in the main event it was Ric Flair versus Sting. Famously, that was also the main event of the final Nitro. But during that match, Lex Luger, who was thought to be under contract with the WWF, walked out
It's big.
and showed up on national TV.
That's a
for
big
WCW.
moment for that. I mean, man, I wish we could kind of live in a world where there was no social media spoiling us on everything all the time. That would be cool to see.
You know, it's kind of funny too that you mentioned that. I didn't really put the pieces together, but it makes complete sense that you have Luger eventually, you know, creating these ties with the Wolfpack or with the NWA Prod, because I mean, if you think about it, he really was the first outsider in that context.
It
Like a
was.
proto Hall Nash.
Do we know what the demo was for that show? Did Meltzer talk about that and why it's so important compared to WWE's demo? at the
Well,
time?
actually, Donnie, it's interesting that you mention that because I don't care and shut up.
Oh, all right,
Yeah,
all right.
international hostility.
We're gonna build a wall, man.
Wrong side of the states.
Make the whiskeys pay for it. All
Okay.
right, all right. We got the first Nitro. What's
And then-
the third thing on Not Today?
2009, Ring of Honor issued a press release saying that both Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness had signed in-principle contracts to be going to the WWE. Famously, Nigel would not be medically cleared and would join TNA under the name of Desmond Wolfe instead until he retired in 2011. I can hear Brandon crying.
Oh, I mean that and chewing rice too. Sorry, fellas. If you hear a little bit of a swish and swash, it's probably my saliva mixing up my food. And for that, I apologize. But no, it was no Desmond Wolfe, man. I remember when he came into TNA, and I remember like hearing about him and reading about him in PWI and stuff. But right, I wasn't a tape trader in those days, so I never really watched a ton of his matches. So like I caught maybe like on early YouTube like one match he had, but it left enough of an impression. So when I see him on TNA and I see him facing out with Angle, I'm like, oh, they're already gonna jump the shark with this one. But I mean, again, we talked about Kurt Angle not having any 5-star matches, and Desmond Wolfe, I feel, for my money, was one of the stronger candidates to have one of those with Angle. But you know, life happens.
Life happens, but I'll actually do a quick on this day for September 5th.
I literally just pulled it up. So
2020.
yeah,
AEW All Out.
good transition
Daly's
here.
Place.
Yeah.
John Moxley defeated MJF in the main event to retain the AEW World Championship. And last night, me and Brandon got pretty close, 5 rows to the ring from the AEW World Champion, because we went to Dynamite in Milwaukee.
Hell yeah. You didn't
Sure
talk about the
fucking
other
did.
big matches on that card, though. Britt Baker and Big Swole in the Cinematic Tooth and Nail match. And Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho in the Mimosa Mayhem match.
It's
Oh
Both.
yeah.
Very memorable matches in AEW history.
I mean, remember that
OC's magnum
Big
opus.
Swole sucked, according to Tony Khan.
But let's talk about a little bit about what you guys did, since you said you had a good transition and I ruined it for you. So
Yeah, because you had to shill fucking Chris Jericho because he's from Canada.
yes, because I'm the only person on this podcast that shits on Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't say you were shitting on him. I said you were talking to him because he's from Canada.
I misheard. I'm deaf. All right, that's fine.
Yeah, it's okay, there, bud.
Yeah, I didn't have it in the right Canadian accent there, bye.
Sorry, there. I'll give you a toonie and you can go get a double there.
Alrighty.
But yeah, the transition. Me and Brandon went to Dynamite, the Panther Arena. For whatever reason, my GPS decided to take me off the highway and put me all on 145 and Fond du Lac Drive. And I don't know if you ever driven that, Brandon, but that wasn't the greatest street to drive on.
No, it's not. It's not very hospitable. Not even for the locals, I'd say.
So,
Nope.
like, bad quality road, or like bad neighborhood, or
Bad
all of the
neighborhood.
above? Okay.
A bit of both. Yeah,
There's
I'd
only
say
one
a bit of
other road that I've driven on that's worse, and that was Martin Luther King Drive, which I know is a Chris Rock bit, but I could say for 100% truth is real.
I think there's enough consensus from enough people to say, yeah, that's probably an accurate statement across the board. To any of your listeners who happen to be living on Martin Luther King Boulevard right about now,
because like Toronto,
I do humbly apologize.
we don't
Please
have a
don't shoot
street
me.
where it's like, man, you better not drive on that. Like, people want to talk about certain areas of Toronto being like, no, this is like a tough area, but it's really not that bad anywhere here. I don't think there's anywhere where I'd say I wouldn't drive on this street. Like, walk at night, maybe, but I don't think there's a single street in this city where I'm like, oh, I'm never driving on that street. It's too dangerous, whatever. It's interesting. Didn't know Milwaukee had that.
Oh yeah,
Milwaukee?
I think it's like
Well, wannabe Chicago?
Learn something new every day about you and your locales.
it's a scony lifestyle there, Don.
Taking it in there, bud.
You got your goods, you got your bads, you know.
No.
But if we're gonna segue, we got in there about 6:30ish. We were 5 rows away from the ring, section E. That was probably the best seats I've ever had to a wrestling show.
How much you pay for the seats, if you don't mind the crowd asking?
$70 a pop.
$70 a pop for, you say, fifth row floors?
Yep.
Damn. And when you buy these in relation to the show date, just so like people can know if there's like good deals going around?
Last Saturday.
Damn. So about half a week out, and you got them for $70 USD, fifth
Right. They're talking about how AEW isn't selling out their arenas. It wasn't a packed house, I'll tell you that, but the floor was packed. They'll say that.
At $70 a ticket, I could see why the floor would be packed. That's like $7,000 Canadian. In fairness, though, because the dollar sucks. But like, you know, realistically, that's around $100 for us. That's good. Like $100 here in Toronto for. I mean, I don't really. I'm a mark, so I buy everything so far in advance. But like, I'm not getting floors for $100 for a WWE house show. Never mind, televised event for AEW. I think we had floors for AEW, and I think for Dynamite right before Forbidden Door, and I want to say they were like 150 to 200 each. It's not terrible, but we certainly weren't 5 rows either. So, hell yeah, boys.
Well, it's weird too. You'd think, you got right after All In, right before All Out, and All Out's literally right down south, like an hour and a half. So you'd think, right? I mean, but in spite of the fact that, like Pierce was saying, it wasn't necessarily like a full house, a packed house, hard cam side and all around, you had a lot of really passionate fans, and it was just a really good energy. It was a good vibe. Just a lot of fun.
What's the Milwaukee crowds like in general, though, for like professional wrestling in your guys' experience?
Usually pretty loud. It's passionate fans. The people in front of us are pretty cool. They were going all out too. Shout out to Doris. He's going to be listening to the pod. Hopefully, he listens to this episode specifically. He was
Shout
a good
out to
dude.
who?
Zoris, like Norris with a Z.
Don't call him Doris.
No, don't call him Doris. Don't call him Norris. Call him Zoris.
Yeah, me, him, and his buddy were one of the 6 people that were chanting for Wheeler Yuta, so it was fun.
Wow, that's 6 more than I thought would be chanting for Wheeler Yuta, so there's that.
That's what I said. They were trying so hard to get Wheeler over. I'm like, he can mark it on his calendar. This is where I started to get over. Signed Wheeler Yuta.
Oh boy.
We tried, it didn't work. I did get a couple of chants over.
Sure did.
I had a chant for a dark match, which was one more time. I had the he's bald.
He's bald to who? You gotta give more
MJF.
context. Okay.
I can't think of the third one, but the fourth one was at the end of the show after the dark match. Bryan Danielson came back out, and I started a thank you, Bryan chant.
Dope.
First time I've ever done that, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I can
Now,
toot my own horn.
so Pierce, you've
Yeah,
been
you
to
were on a
AEW
roll.
shows before, right? At least one. You
Yeah,
have, right?
this is my second.
Brandon, this is the first ever AEW show you went to, correct?
Technically, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Tony's ROH, but it doesn't really, right?
Yeah,
AEW, yeah.
that doesn't count. So tell me about your
No.
first AEW experience then. Like what was your thoughts on everything associated to it? The atmosphere, the setup, the production quality, everything, the matches. Like it's good to hear some first viewer opinions on the live experience. So tell us a little bit
Man,
about yours.
I'll tell you, those ring announcers they have on payroll, they do not read your signs between commercial breaks, especially if you're trying to plug local podcasts. I learned that about these people.
Fuck
I don't know
you,
how much
Justin
Tony's
Roberts.
paying these people. I don't know how much Tony's paying these people. If Brian would have came at him again with another tie, I would not have booed. I would not have booed.
Dapper Yapper not shilling our podcast. What a dick. He read it
I
like 4 times. We saw him make eye contact with us.
Yeah, I held the sign in front of my face, peered from the side to make sure he was seeing we were kind of like establishing that connection. And I'm running my fingers, I'm underlining the at Ope-Eh 3-way, dead center of my sign, and it looks like he's squinting at it, like he's trying to make out what it says, and then just passes me by like the fucking angel of death on Passover. Like, bro, you can't even give us a little plug. Like,
Now, do you think
no one's actually gonna see this on TV. Like, this isn't gonna make a broadcast. You know? I don't know. Maybe I'm a little salty about it,
Do you think
but
he didn't want to mispronounce Ope like I would have done, not knowing, with him not being told how to pronounce it? Like, yeah, he's not a Wisconsin native, is he?
he is not.
Yeah, so
I
maybe
don't
he just didn't
care.
want to make a clown out of himself.
He is a
But I
clown.
mean,
I mean, I don't
is it? Yeah,
disagree,
that
but
clown ass haircut he had. And hey,
all right,
as an announcer, I like to think you'd like to be a little cultured in that you get to know where you're going. You learn a little bit of dialect so you can kind of, ramble and banter with the fans a little bit. But,
I feel like Samantha
hey,
Irvin would have
I'm
shouted
not the
it out.
professional here.
Shout out
Yeah,
Samantha
I think
Irvin. She
Samantha
would have
Irvin
called
would
out
have.
our sign.
She absolutely would have done this. So I think she would have scouted us out at like the Royal Rumble or something, just a packed house. We would have probably been like section or two up, put her, hand to her brow, sees us in the distance, points us out, shouts it, stadium roars in approval, but no, we had to stop at Dynamite for this one. We'll
That's
get
okay.
them next time.
You guys said there's a show coming up, though, a WWE show coming up. So there's always a chance there. But all right, tell us some good
There's
stuff
always
though about the
SmackDown.
show. Tell us some good stuff about the show.
I mean, like I said, the fans there were very passionate, and it was a very hospitable environment, in spite of the fact that people were getting rowdy, as we fucking should, because it's Milwaukee. We got to represent. We got to turn out. We're not a big market kind of city. So, but we are full of passionate wrestling fans, I like to think. So I think we did a great job as far as being there. I feel like we got a really good chance over. Like, we got This Is Arson over after that fucking A1 promo that Hangman did when he burned Swerve's house down, which is going to be one of the most memorable moments of 2024, if not, I'd say of the next decade.
Yeah, I would say
In pro wrestling.
of AEW current history, that's got to be like a top 5 moment in AEW history for like just like the oh my god moments, But
They have elevated this feud to the point where it goes above and beyond AEW. This is a generational wrestling feud.
yeah, a lot of people
Because
sniffed it out though. Like as soon I was on Twitter X, whatever the fuck, yesterday, and it came out pretty early in the day that Swerve got his childhood home, and like literally the whole comment section was filled with like Adam Page is gonna burn it down. So like it wasn't shocking that it happened. I think it was almost kind of predictable, but in the same vein, it doesn't change the fact that the imagery, like the actual like the promo and the visage of it was pretty fucking incredible, regardless if people saw it coming.
It was very provocative. It got the people going.
That's ball so hard, man.
Motherfuckers want to fine Adam Page for arson. But yeah, no, it was a great time. I love the experience. Um, cool that Tony actually was a lovable money mark as opposed to an evil money mark like Vinnie Mac, and shelled out money to Europe to play like a minute of the final countdown. Well, it was more than a minute because he played it on the outro too after the dark match was done. But yeah, it was cool. Like it felt very like fan centric.
The
I mean, there
untelevised
was,
stuff costs less, though. It's not like he's spending the same amount of money to play it there as he's spending to
but
play
they
it
were
at like.
still
that's
recording
true.
it.
I mean, yes and no. Like Schrodinger is recording
They
or something.
kept the cameras out there for reasons unknown to us.
Regardless, so the show was overall enjoyable. You would go back, yes? I mean, Pierce, you
Yeah.
already said it's your second time. You'd go back again, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. After a show like that, I mean, all the matches were very, very good. I mean, I never thought I would get to see both an Okada match and an Osprey match in the same night that I wouldn't have to, go to a pay-per-view for, but I got both.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tony Khan, for that.
Yeah, seeing Kazuchika Okada in Milwaukee was surreal. He's one of those guys who, after watching his rise in New Japan, I never really imagined I'd see him much live, except at like the occasional War of the Worlds type pay per view back when Ring of Honor was, still doing its own thing. But catching him, and especially now that he's really finding his stride as a member of the Elite, I feel like it was really cool. Like when he was about to do his Rainmaker pose, and then he just like tells everybody in Milwaukee that they're number one. It was great.
You can make the argument that Okada is possibly the greatest Japanese professional wrestler of all time. And having him do a TV match in Milwaukee, it just feels special.
Now you're making me think, is he actually... I mean, that could be a whole other show, but...
I mean, next week's show is going to be a little different, but it's not going to be that show yet.
No, we got to figure out specifically what we're going to talk about over the next some of our down weeks. We have a good idea for that. Did someone want to let that one out of the bag for what we're considering for next week's show, or are we going to leave that until later?
What do you think, Brandon? Should we give him a spoiler?
Well, you gave him the alert, so we might as well give him the spoiler.
Well, with how Dynamite ended with a literal arson, and we found out first in crowd after the fact that the steel cage match is now a lights out steel cage match between Hangman and Swerve. Yep. I had the idea to do a rivalry series on the podcast where we go in depth and have a mod, and so that'll be episode 1. I mean, Donnie's the man who titles these, but I like the anatomy of escalation for this because everything about this rivalry has been about escalation. One person does one thing, another does something crazier. I mean, let's just see what happens.
I mean, I might say Who's House, Torch House, or something like that, but we can go with whatever. This sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. We've already talked about other rivalries that we want to do this with. I think for this one, we haven't decided who's going to be the moderator yet for it, but I don't think it's going to be Pierce because you're probably, of the three of us, the most like in on this this feud. So between Brandon and I, will figure out who will take the. Oh yeah, there we go. We'll figure out who takes the other side there. We'll figure out the logistics for that, but that's going to be a big part of our show next week. See how it works. If we like the dynamic of it, we might do it again. You might try some more historical stuff rather than current stuff, but we're going to feel that out a bit next week with there not being a PLE or for WWE side. WWE is in a bit of a lull right now for the month of September. And then we'll have some post all out stuff should there be anything worth talking about. But I think with that said, it's a good time to talk about, really quickly power through the card for All Out this weekend in Chicago.
Before we get too far, I just want to say what we were going on before. The only thing I want to say, one thing, I cannot wait to vehemently defend that Swerve's getting his house down was absolutely and well fucking deserved. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, then it sounds like I'm the moderator. So yeah, it sounds like I'm the moderator. Then.
Yes.
I think we've already decided that as a result. So
I'll
moderate next week. We'll figure out a format for that. And it'll be a lot of fun that we cover that next week. So that makes that decision a whole lot easier.
Excellent.
All right. So on All Out, there is 8 matches currently listed on the card, which means by the time it's finalized, there'll be 26 matches on the card. Thank you, Tony Khan. But we'll go over these 8 here that are listed. Come on, man. Let me have my gimmick. I just like hating on things as like tongue-in-cheek stuff. I don't mean anything. Like some people want to see 26 matches, and that's fine.
You're not a hater of the year. It's Drew McIntyre. Well, it might actually be Hangman Page, but
Hangman's creeping up on that number 1 spot.
He made a big play there. But I will say, we're not going to talk too much about WWE today, but the spot on Raw where Drew snapped the bracelet, shoved it down CM Punk's throat, and then Claymore'd him was pretty sick. Like, that was a cool spot, I think. But anyways, I will continue to troll where I think it's appropriate. We'll see how many matches end up on this card. First one, Will Ospreay defends AEW International Championship against Pac. Feel free to make any sort of comments that you'd like as we go through these. I don't think the result here is going to be surprising, but the match will probably be entertaining.
Banger.
Yep. Brandon?
Ospreay, Pac. I mean, Ospreay's going to win it. It's going to be an absolute... I've said it before, I'll say it again. That should have been an all-in match. I get why they went with the MJF. The boys should have had their match in Britain. We're getting into Chicago. Fine. Love it. I'll deal with it. It's going to be a banger. A banger, if you will.
Yep.
No argument from me.
The Young Bucks defend the AEW World Tag Team Championship against Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. Why are we having Trios Champions challenge for the Tag Team Champions?
Well, Pac is busy, and Claudio and Wheeler needed something to do, and Tony seems to be having this fetish of linking up the tag and trios titles for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one.
It went so well with Dusty and the boys. Let's just slap it all into BCC.
Young Bucks should easily retain here. Could there be a spot here where Jon Moxley turns on the BCC?
I think he's just quietly away from them.
Okay. So he's not gonna do that obvious disconnect from them. He's just gonna do his own thing and totally ignore the rest of those guys.
No, he's the Death Rider right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's kind of more pursuing that connection, that interaction with Darby Allin. So I mean, I can't see him kind of doing 2 things at once, and it's not like Darby's gonna run out and save Claudio and Wheeler from anything that I can think of. So
he did have an interaction with Jack Perry that, could be perceived as slightly supportive of Jack Perry. So I'm not convinced that he might do some fuckery, but it would probably be a little bit more likely later on. But he could potentially sever his ties with the BCC at All Out.
We'll
see what happens.
Maybe not at All Out, but certainly very soon. I think.
Next up, a Chicago street fight between Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander.
I mean, they're both obviously very talented. It'll be good to showcase them both.
They've had a decent feud. It hasn't been a focal point on television. I mean, unless I guess technically on Collision or Rampage, but it hasn't been getting too much Dynamite time, and that's most of what my AEW consumption is, but I've been hearing
It's got,
positive things.
it's got a good story, but it's nice to have a women's match on the card that isn't for a title.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it's very clear, and it's been clear for a while, that Tony's obviously very behind both Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander, and has been pretty consistently. So, if anything, probably just to keep both of them relevant until either of them receives a title match or a title opportunity.
Yep.
Which, perfect, give them a chance to flex a little bit.
Any thoughts on who
Keep
goes
them
over here?
limber. I feel like they could kind of draw this one out for a bit. If one of them loses, the other's going to win at some point, probably the week after, 2 weeks after that. That's the way I kind of see it. It's going to be one of those 2 of 3 feuds kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably Chris.
I was thinking Chris as well. She hasn't got a big win since she came back, has she?
No, not really. It seems like Willow's kind of had the upper hand this whole feud, besides when Chris turned. So it makes sense if Chris won here.
Next match, Kazuchika Okada defends the AEW Continental Championship in a 4-way match against 3 to-be-determined competitors. Do we know who these competitors are yet?
One of them is going to be Konosuke Takeshita, and that's really what it's about, is to put Takeshita and Okada in the ring, to push that towards Wrestle Dream, to where Takeshita probably wins the Continental Championship. And then Okada can go on to bigger and better things.
Okay. And Konosuke Takeshita can finally get a fucking championship in AEW. Which, my God, how overdue has that been? We're not even keeping record anymore. Libraries don't keep record of how overdue that kind of shit gets. But
last All Out, he was beating Kenny Omega. He should have had something happen in 2024.
Anything.
I mean, he's had matches for the TNT Championship, and close but no cigar. But it's really about fucking time, and especially you can't deny him anymore. Especially not after he puts out for the G1 like he did too. New Japan could.
The other names would be involved in this. Someone's got to take a pin, and it's probably not going to be Takeshita. So.
They announced it.
I would assume not Eddie Kingston, right? Eddie Kingston's injured yet?
He's still injured, right?
He's injured and probably yelling at people.
Sounds like Eddie Kingston.
Let me see if I can see.
Probably Orange Cassidy or Lance Archer. I don't see Mark Briscoe going into the match. If he does, he's not taking a pin. So it would either be Orange Cassidy, Brian Keith, or Lance Archer.
Brian Keith. Come on.
Can't squeeze Big Bill in there?
Shout out to Lance Archer. He liked Brandon's tweet.
He sure did.
Shout out. Probably not the tweet he would want others to know that he liked, but nevertheless.
I mean, hey, I don't know if anyone else is even going to see it. Who's going to bring it up on charges for him? But
No, you can't see.
You're
that.
Doing okay for.
Shout out Elon.
We never question any of the booking decisions surrounding or related to Lance Archer. Forget we said anything about Lance Archer.
Big talented
in all
dude.
reality, though.
But so is Big Bill. Bill's also a big talented dude, so it wouldn't hurt to have a big talented dude in that match. I think in this case it'll probably be Lance, which I hope he doesn't get pinned. But we'll see. Next up, MJF versus Daniel Garcia. Does Daniel Garcia win this match?
Depends on if he re-signs or not.
Let's assume he probably did. I don't think he put him in this match if he doesn't. I don't know what the benefit is here if he hasn't re-signed.
I mean, that'd be a beautiful irony, though, wouldn't it? When you have Garcia going off on his pipes about how, MJF is faking his passion for AEW and how AEW's got some of the greatest fans in the world and yada, yada. And then here all of a sudden you see him show up on NXT within 3 weeks.
Center. Yeah.
Yeah.
There would be some irony in that, but I don't think that's really beneficial from a booking perspective.
Right. I feel like they wouldn't put him in this unless they had some commitment from him.
I agree.
I would like to see Garcia win, but I really don't think he will.
In any case, I feel like this is going to be like one of those showcase matches where it's kind of like Jeff Hardy and Undertaker, right? Like once the match is done, there's no doubt that even the guy who lost, is going to end up being a winner at the long run.
Didn't
I
Garcia
feel like
already
Danny
have that
Garcia.
though with Bryan Danielson? Didn't he have a match like that already?
Yeah, but this is different.
Yeah, and then they made him be a stooge for Jericho.
I know, but like that's that's
I feel like in
what
Danielson's
worries
case,
me, right? Because like Daniel Garcia had that whole bit where he's a professional wrestler, he's not a professional wrestler during, the Jericho Appreciation Society stint. And you have that payoff match with Bryan Danielson, which was a banger of a match from a guy who's not always as invested on AEW content. I'd say that was a banger of a match. And then you got him dancing for the next year.
Because they
Right?
made him be a sports entertainer.
Right? Like, so while I want to
AEW
agree
is
with the
about real
thought,
grass, boys.
I want to agree with the thought that this will make him, and I feel like it has to, because if it doesn't, like, why would he still be there then at that point if he's just going to be a comedy character? I am a little bit pessimistic to that mentality, just because they've already failed with that before once with him.
I mean, with Garcia and Danielson, I feel like a bigger focus of that was like showing that he was as good in ring as people were trying to make him out to be, or as maybe like they thought he was. In this case, I feel like with him dancing and with him, them trying to build like actual weight behind this feud with MJF, I feel like they're trying to get people to get behind him, and they're trying to gauge how much people will actually get behind Daniel Garcia, because he could be a good or a great wrestler, fine. Daniel Bryan was a good or a great wrestler, and that was kind of his shtick on NXT. And when he was, the United States champion and stuff, they had to get the Miz of all people to continue to work and to put him over until eventually he had that launch pad set to where he could just take off and, experiment with his character and get to where he is now. Now we're all shouting yes at his shows, regardless of what company he works for. So I feel like that's kind of a similar vein to what they're trying to do here with Garcia and MJF. I feel like they're trying to make MJF Garcia's Miz, where this is where you start to get the emotional backing for Daniel Garcia. And then after that, I mean, the sky's the limit for him regardless. Like, he's a young, talented, good-looking dude. Like, there's tons of places he can go and get good, but you want to build him into a franchise player for AEW. This guy is going to be one of the futures of your company. Like, and I'm thinking that Tony sees that, and that's why with another guy who people questioned his loyalty, coincidentally enough with MJF to AEW, this is where you start to cement Daniel Garcia as that blue chip player going forward.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. If we're having this conversation a year from now in another Daniel Garcia match, I hope that's not the case for his sake, for his career. But
neither do I. No, I think and I hope that he does really, really good for himself. But right, stranger things have happened.
We'll see. I just going back really quickly to that Okada 4-way match. I did see a note here. Spots determined by 3 matches on Collision: Orange Cassidy versus Brian Keith, Lance Archer versus Mark Briscoe, and Takeshita versus the Beast Mortos. I have no fucking clue who that is.
So he was Black Toro. He was Black Toros in TNA. Basically like a beast.
Okay. Well, he's not winning on Collision, so
he's not being Takeshita.
No. So it'll probably be Cassidy, Archer, and Takeshita.
Yeah, I don't think they would bring in Mark Briscoe to take a loss there.
He'd probably be the easiest person to take the pin, but I mean, he's still ROH champion though, right? Maybe that's not the correct thing to do either.
Right.
Yeah. So Archer or Cassidy's going to take the pin. Life will move on, and then we'll get our Takeshita Okada match at Wrestle Dream. Next up, Mercedes Moné is defending her AEW TBS Championship versus Hikaru Shida with a fan of our Twitter account, Camille, banned from ringside.
Shout out, Camille. You are our very first wrestling world on Twitter. Thank you so much. Or it's X.
Yeah, I will always say Twitter. I hate saying X. But anyway,
I agree. I would like to see Monet finished this match with the way she did the Monet Maker at the New Japan Capital Collision show, where she hits it and then transitions into the bank statement immediately. That should be the finish.
Maybe Camille listened to the podcast when I said, please ask her to change her finisher, because the match after I said that, she changed it.
It was also New Japan, so she probably changed the style between the two companies.
Hey, it makes you think, boys. Shout out Camille.
Shout out Camille.
Monet wins the match. It'll probably be a decent match. They're both very talented in the ring. Could there be some additional fuckery despite Camille being banned from ringside? Maybe, but
of course.
I think the result here is pretty safe.
I think it's going to be from JBL.
Right. Just shows up in his duster, clothesline from hell. I didn't do anything wrong.
I guess it's kind of on brand for JBL circa 2004, but
I couldn't imagine just JBL just showing up and just lariating the fuck out of a woman on AEW. That'd be so bash backwards, and I would love it.
Please, so we do not endorse that for multiple reasons. It doesn't need to happen, and it shouldn't happen.
It does not. Oh no, I'm not saying it should. I'm just saying like just the irony of it would just be palpable. But sorry, I'll disengage from that.
No,
thought.
You're good. I'm just being dumb.
So what's the next match, Donnie?
Yeah, that's actually a great time to sequence into the next match. I'm not going to be dumb, but let's go singles match for the AEW World Championship. After much desire for Bryan Danielson to finally win the big one, he defends the World Championship against Jack Perry. Are we doing this match because it's in Chicago? Like, is this because it's in Chicago? Like, what are we doing here?
100%. I mean, you could make the argument that he is the rightful number one contender because he's the last person that pinned Danielson.
That doesn't matter a lot of the time.
But, yeah, Jungle Bitch is going to get his head kicked in.
Yep. Do we see any Christian Cage nonsense?
Maybe.
Maybe a little tease to remind people that he's there, but
because of the main event, I think all nonsense is going to be in that match because I think that I don't think this is closing. It shouldn't.
No. The match is listed as the main event here on Wikipedia, the all-encompassing oracle of wrestling information. Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page in a unsanctioned lights out steel cage match. So in this feud so far, Hangman has not won, correct?
No.
Okay. That puts Swerve at what, 2-0 or 3-0? I can't remember how many matches they've had.
2-0, the third match at Samoa Joe for the world title, and Joe used them hating each other to sneak out the win.
Right. That's why I always thought there was a third match in there, right? So, Hangman's lost twice. Swerve technically lost once, but singles matches, that's 2-0 Swerve, which Page is winning, right? Like,
yeah. So I'm gonna go into this more in depth next week. But when they announced that their second match at, I believe it was Full Gear last year, was Texas Death, I was like, oh shit, Hangman's got this in the bag. This is his match. But Swerve had gotten so far into his head and made him so psychologically damaged, it made him lose his match, and it got him to the point where the character of Hangman Page is so interesting from the beginning of AEW to now, to where he stopped drinking and he won the big one, and then now, after not drinking for so long, he got to the point of psychological damage that he started drinking, and he got to the point where he burned down somebody's fucking house. And that's all on Swerve Strickland, and he is going to fucking pay the Reaper on Saturday. He's not winning. How
many pints of blood will be drank in this match?
Hopefully 0, because that shit was gross. It was
Hopefully,
a
it
cool
paints the
visual.
cage red.
Yeah,
It was great.
it's gonna be. I mean, considering what we had in their last singles match, which I think was a bit too far. That's why I make jokes about it. I don't think the violence is going to be lessened from that either, though. I just don't, hopefully nobody drinks anybody's blood. It's gonna be violent. It's gonna be gross. There's gonna be foreign objects that you'll probably never want to see in a wrestling match. In this match.
It's probably gonna be real glass because they're in Chicago.
I mean, I could see him doing a spot with like a beer bottle or something. Honestly, if you want to talk about that, but
I think it's gonna be like a whiskey or scotch bottle because
fair
he
enough.
wasn't
Sorry,
drinking
that's
beer. He wasn't drinking beer in front of that house. It was a glass of whiskey.
yeah. So I could see a smashed up bottle of whiskey being part of it. It's gonna be
You know what I'd like to
brutal.
see? You know what I'd like to see? A burnt piece of wood.
Like him actually like a 2x4 from the burnt down house that he beats him with.
Yeah, I think that would be fucking awesome.
I thought you were gonna say you wanted to see Chris Jericho in it for a second, but
Pops off over the
No, I
ring.
want
Hi,
to see
guys.
Austin Theory.
I want to see mangled clumps of flesh, hair, and dreads sticking from the links of that cage. If it
There's gonna
doesn't
be
get
some
that
fire
kind of
involved,
brutal,
right?
I don't want it.
I would think there's gonna be some fire involved.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the finish. I kind of want Hangman to light his arm on fire and then hit the buckshot. That or it's going to be a dead eye through a flaming table, but a flaming arm buckshot would be cooler.
They'll have to do some prep for that. If you might be able to call it early based on how he comes out with his attire. Usually he wrestles shirtless though, right? So that'll be a tough thing to hide. If they
Yeah,
do
but
it.
there's like fire gel that burns quickly that they could put on his arm.
True.
Like shit that's not going to hurt him.
It'll
Maybe
be
he comes out in jeans and fucking a wife beater, the normal unsanctioned match fucking attire.
It'll be the most talked about match, I think, just from the shock factor of it. But you have to also assume that'll end the feud for the time being with these guys.
Yeah, again, this feud has eclipsed the AEW has had 3 stories that are above and beyond AEW that are wrestling defining rivalries in my eyes. It's Hangman versus the Elite, where he learns to like love himself essentially and make friends outside of the guys that brought him into the business. MJF Punk, I mean that one speaks for itself. That is the best story of the modern wrestling besides the Bloodline. And now Hangman Swerve, which again I like to think of it as as escalation personified, where a man breaks into somebody's house and touches his child. Well, not like that, but like you know what I mean.
Oh, come on!
I didn't mean it like that.
Come
I
on!
misspoke. Like breaks into his house and somehow becomes the good guy in the story.
Don't tease too much of your material for next week.
Right. But that's my thoughts. I think this is going to be probably the most brutal match AEW ever did, besides the exploding barbed wire ring.
Yeah, real brutal that was. All the
Yeah,
sparklers.
most brutal thing about that was that sparkler spot.
Oh my god! I thought if there was a point in the early days of like the AEW jumping the shark, it was that because holy shit, that was bad. But they luckily, for their sake, have gone past that and are putting on much better quality when it comes to their shock factor in these brutal matches, and we'll see more of that on Sunday. Are we good?
No good wrestling companies without its chronicles of cringe.
No doubt. Are we good to move on to talk about Bash at Berlin for a bit?
Yeah, I think so. Are you good, Brandon?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Let her
so
rip.
Bash at Berlin was this past Saturday afternoon. So the hardest time to actually watch a wrestling show when you have shit to do. on a Saturday afternoon, but I watched it a couple hours late. Did you guys watch it live or at all, or just kind of follow
I watched
along
it
with
live.
watch it live, Brandon?
Yeah, I watched along live too. Yep.
Okay. So 5 matches. Quickly go over them. Kicked off with Cody Rhodes defeating Kevin Owens. Throughout the match, Kevin Owens didn't look like he had the killer instinct to take advantage of the spots he could have with Cody. And then post match, they still had a hug, but then Kevin shoved away the camera. So maybe they're not quite done there yet. Do we see them run it back at Bad Blood?
Yeah, I think you get the turn.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much more frustration Kevin Owens has to put up with at this point in his career after all the failed attempts at ending the bloodline. And now Cody's given him these pity title matches where he can go out and, he can lose, and he's got people yelling at him being like, well, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're Kevin Owens. You put people in the hospital. You're sadistic. Like, you're supposed to be winning titles. You are a prize fighter. You're doing all this stuff for your family. Like, why aren't you pulling the trigger? And I think that's all going to come to a head very soon. I think Bad Blood is pretty apropos, not to, steal a Cody line, because I know he was a big fan of that word, apropos. But I know at least he was back before this WWE run. But
He
I
said it a couple
think
times, I think.
since he came back, yeah, maybe. I feel like it's not as much a feature like in his stuff
It's
anymore.
not as
I don't hear him say it as
embellished, I don't
much.
think, but I do like that sounds like a word he said. Like I can hear him because I didn't watch basically any of his stuff in AEW. I can hear him saying that word though in promos that I've seen. So I'm assuming it's still
He's very much.
there. It's just not a thing.
Mm. But right, if we're talking about like Bad Blood as a concept, right? Like very, very apropos that you would have Kevin have some bitterness about dragging Cody out when he's not trying to fight him like that, and then he gets beat in front of the world, and he's reminded of, this is where he's at. Like and Big E said it on the post show too. Like, he's, oh, what did he say? He's basically was just um, yeah, Kevin Owens is this guy who needs to make the jump. Like everybody trusts him as a good hand, and it's a weird thing to say about Kevin Owens when you've followed his career, think of him as strictly a good hand, but he needs to make the jump. It's now or never for him if he's going to actually get back into title pictures and win something after years and years, or if he's just going to coast it out and he's just going to be another guy who people remember used to be a killer, but now he's just kind of a guy who you can count on for a good match every now and again.
I think if
And maybe a decent comedy.
I think if he does the turn and he obviously still loses to Cody because Cody's got plot armor for the next while. But I could see a scenario where, Kevin is the brooding heel. Maybe I don't know who he feuds with right away, but he could be the guy to beat LA Knight, hypothetically. We talked a little bit about LA Knight's U.S. title reign, and obviously it's still very early in that, but he could be a guy that could beat LA Knight, and that gives him an actual title reign. We also don't know if he actually extended his contract, right? He says his contract is coming up relatively soon,
Mhm.
so
Still hasn't signed as of today.
sorry, say that again.
He still hasn't signed as of today.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it's technically possible that this is a way of writing him out should he not sign a contract, but I don't know that there's any indication that that would be the case.
Who knows? I mean, it's very much he's done everything he wanted to do in WWE now.
True. It's very true. He has done everything, except successfully defend a main title. But thank you.
He should get another
Thank you, Goldberg.
run. I mean, he could do a quick reign with the WWE title if he turns. I don't think anybody would really be opposed. Cody doesn't need to hold on to it for a full calendar year as a babyface.
No,
I agree on that.
we this could probably be a whole other show. Triple H does love the concept of his main title holders holding the titles for significant periods of time. I mean, if we look at, there has not, of the main titles at the very least, not a single title has really been hot potatoed around. The only reason the women's championship was on Raw was because Rhea Ripley got injured.
Right. It's just baby faces are better in the chase than as defending. Not saying Cody's had a bad reign. He's had a very, very good reign. All of his pay-per-view matches have been fucking bangers.
Yep.
It's just,
He got a good match at a
I'll
Solo
be honest.
at SummerSlam. I've seen some people talking shit about that match. That match was totally fine.
That match was
Yeah,
really
there's
good.
nothing wrong with that match at all.
It was a means to an end, unfortunately, but it was a fun match.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, like the second stunner, I completely bid on that near fall. I thought that was it. I know that might make me look like a dumb wrestling fan, but like it very much like I mean he hit a second one. I thought, oh shit, are they gonna do something here? I thought, of course I was wrong, but it showed that like he can get to the point where he was one move away essentially from beating Cody. So if they turn heel and he has that killer instinct again, I'd be fine with a month or two long reign for Kevin.
Yeah, I've said it before on previous episodes of the cast here where Triple H's booking with the men's titles, while I do get it and while it does do wonders for the prestige of the titles, like it really like makes them more valuable and it makes you really kind of sit on the edge of your seat more when the reign continues to go on. I feel like at this point in Cody's reign, like, right, he does not need to make it to Mania or beyond in the way he is now, in my mind. Like, I feel like he, of all the big champions right now, whether it's Intercontinental, US, World Heavyweight, I feel like of all of them, he is the one who stands to lose the least if he were to lose his WWE Championship right now. For reasons like you were saying, Pierce, like, I feel like this is a chance to give Kevin Owens a run with a World Championship again, something that I feel like he's always been that caliber of a guy where you could put a world title on him and you could believably see him defending it for a long period of time or a short period of time, depending. But he's a championship caliber wrestler. And right, if he happened to lose it back to Cody so Cody could fulfill whatever bloodline manifesto comes about come WrestleMania season, then that's easily doable. I mean, he could lose it back.
It'd be a run from Bad Blood to the Royal Rumble. I don't think anybody would mind it one bit.
Not at all.
Can I just quickly chime in with my, I got to be a hater here on some things, and before we get too far away from this, is the Crossroads the worst finisher a main champion has ever had?
AA.
Like,
very.
He needs
six very narrowly edged out by the AA.
He needs 6 every match to win.
I think depending on the person taking it like the AA looks the same every time. Depending on the person taking a Crossroads, it can look fucking devastating. Like you get a flippy guy doing it, and they get dropped on. I'm not saying
for the visual. I'm just saying for the power level of it. Like I'm talking
I get what
kayfabe
you're
here.
saying.
The power level.
But when he hits that, triple Crossroads, it's like it's the super version of it. It's like the top rope. He does it
for everybody.
He does it for Solo
Sikoa. He does it for Kevin Owens. Like, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
I would agree with that, but it's at the same time, he could finish matches with the Cody Cutter.
He's never done that once.
When has he finished? When has he finished a match with the Cody Cutter?
Not in WWE, I don't think.
I think he's done it on episodes of like SmackDown before he was champ, but like,
I mean, that's another
if he were to switch over, that would probably be the move to switch over to.
What was I watching where I said someone needs to take note? Maybe it was a Fraxium tag team match. I can't remember what it was, but I saw a cutter used, and I think it was on NXT, and I was like, man, Cody needs to take some notes on how to do a cutter, because that was a fucking cutter.
Zachary Wentz.
Thank you. Yes, Zachary Wentz. That's who it was. That was a hell of a cutter that he took to Wesley.
That was amazing.
On No Mercy. So, he could take some notes there. But I don't know. I just wanted to get, I don't want to be, only shitting on AEW stuff. I want to, spread my bitterness around equally. And, Cody...
You gotta prove you're not an E-drone.
Yeah, Cody's... power level as a champion here is very questionable to me. But and that brings the argument that he could be beaten easier, I would think, but
So it's
Triple H
funny. I
doesn't
watched
seem
this
to have that in his card.
which is ironic because like I feel like I watched this podcast the other day. I don't know if it was Damian Priest or whoever, but they were talking about how Undertaker or Triple H told them like one of the biggest pieces of advice was protect your finisher, which is if it came from Triple H, and that's beautifully ironic considering he's got Cody doing 3 cutters or
Undertaker
3
told that to
crossroads
Baron
every
Corbin.
single.
Dude, Baron Corbin
That's what
was
it was.
protected for like 7 years with his end of days until Drew McIntyre kicked out of it at WrestleMania, for fuck's sakes.
To be fair,
Mhm.
the end of days is pretty awesome.
I love end of days. I think it's great.
It's
Again,
very
shout
visually
out Baron
pleasant.
Corbin, fan of Baron Corbin on this podcast. But that's the levels to it, right? Like you've got these finishers that are protected for guys where it may or may not make sense for them, and you literally have this guy who had the crowning moment of one of the biggest WrestleManias of all time, and he needs to use his finisher 6 times on Kevin Owens on a B pay-per-view. Come on.
I'm surprised he even thought to use it again after Roman used it on him, and then he kicked out of it, and then just
And
completely
Roman
verbally
said that he gives
shat on it.
shit, right? Like, come on.
That don't finish nobody. Like,
Let me get off my soapbox when it comes to that. I love Cody.
And maybe we should move on to the next match.
Yeah, we will. Cody's a great ambassador for the company and a good dude, but like, I have some questions about that. Nevertheless, let's move on. Second match was Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill regaining the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship by beating the Unholy Union of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, who now earned a rematch again by winning on Raw over Damage Control. So
Kairi Sane's face exploded.
Yeah, she took that spot off the table. It didn't look good. Hopefully, it's not like a broken orbital bone. Thank you. But we're running this match back again, and okay, sure.
I'm fine with it. It was one match.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just kind of it feels like they're just giving them something to do rather than actually like building a feud here, though.
Right, and I mean it is what it is. This Bianca Jade team is a means to an end. With that said, I do think they could use a better finish. Like
Agree.
it kind of looks like instead of going into that like wheelbarrow German, why doesn't Jade just after the crossroads thing, lung blower, whatever you want to call it, or not crossroads? God damn it, Donnie, you got me. Got your tangent.
Sorry. The kiss of death. KOD,
Code
right?
Breaker, which
okay.
is also the kiss of death.
Yeah.
Code Breaker lung blower. Why doesn't she just pick her up and do a jaded into that? That's where she has women for the jaded regardless. Just seems like that would be the way to do it. But
Bianca and Jade are 2 of the strongest women, if not the 2 strongest women on the entire roster. And to your point, I don't think it shows their strength enough in the finisher that they do, if that makes sense.
I mean, and in all fairness, if they were going to finish with a German suplex variant anywhere in the world, it was going to be in Berlin. Come on.
Sure. But they
after the fact, sure,
yeah.
Well, true, yeah, but if you're gonna send it out, then I mean, I don't know if they have used it since, but I mean, if they're ever not going to use it again, like poetically, yeah, finish it out in Berlin.
The first time, no, is not that has been their finisher in the past, no?
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah, I've seen it a few times.
Yeah,
I'm just saying after the lung blower where the person ends up should just do it into the jaded.
Yeah, something a bit more high impact, I would say, honestly. Demonstrate the clear power advantage that they have as a team over basically all the opponents that they're ever going to have in this roster, outside of a couple isolated groups. But yeah, we'll see what happens with them going forward. Have to imagine they'll beat Unholy Union again whenever that rematch is, and then who knows what we get with them from there.
Yeah, me personally, I'd like a Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez tag team coming at that. But that's my dream booking scenario.
I would like to see oh my goodness, Nia and Tiffany Stratton, but they're kind of still lumped in with the main women's title. I think that would actually have an interesting dynamic between the four of them. But
Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll go on to Pierce's favorite match.
I think you could say this is everybody's favorite match because
it wasn't mine, but
that's because you're a hater.
No, it's not. I didn't say it was bad. I just said it wasn't my favorite. Calm down. CM Punk wins his first match officially in a WWE ring, ignoring house shows that happened last Christmas when he beat Dominic Mysterio a bunch of times. But CM Punk gets his first televised win in WWE in 10 and a half years by defeating Drew McIntyre in a strap match. Between touching the four corners of the ring, he delivered 3 GTSs. I think this match was better than their first match. I still don't think it was violent enough, though. No blood, no crazy spots. Well, yeah, I guess there's a little bit of blood, but not like not
it's funny.
Spot, you know.
I feel like the beatdowns, honestly, in between their matches, have been a lot more violent than the matches themselves.
I agree. We had
like Drew dragging Punk out
on SmackDown
in the parking lot. Yep. And then you had this last spot after the bracelet bit, and then what I reposted on X where it looks like he's he's gouging his eyes out like he's Gregor McLean on the mountain or whatever on Game of Thrones. It was like spot on. I looked at that and I just laughed. I'm like, that. It even looks like fucking Oberyn Martell too. CM Punk does. Got like the same like hair and beard kind of setup. Great.
Right. I'd like to, I was pretty critical of the red light, green light part of this. I think this is probably the best use of that ever because obviously I'm going to be a little biased because it's Punk, but it's Punk showing he's not washed. The match fucking ruled. They didn't like immediately start trying to tap the things like
I popped at the spot when Drew was carrying Punk around, and every time Drew touched it, when he went to turn around to go to the next one, Punk touched the turnbuckle. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was a callback to the bull rope match between Batista and JBL. And JBL was being dragged behind Batista, and he was hitting him each time. Yeah, and I mean, it had a very it kind of had an exclamation point finish with Punk hitting 4 GTSs.
I thought it was 3. Was it 4?
So he hit 1 in the beginning, and then he hit 4 in between.
4? No, corners. 3. It was 3 at the end, right? Because he hit 1, then he touched 2 corners. No, he didn't hit 1 after every corner.
He hit 1, and then he went and hit the corner, and then hit another one, and then he hit a corner, hit another one, and then right before he hit the last corner, he hit him with the GTS, and then grabbed the bracelet and hit it.
I thought for he did the GTS, and then he's touched the first 2 corners, then he did a second one, touched the third corner, did a third
GTS, corner, GTS, corner, GTS, GTS, corner.
I'm gonna throw out a challenge flag on that, but we can do that offline. I'm throwing the challenge. It's NFL season. I'm throwing out the challenge flag on that. Nevertheless,
yeah, we're gonna have to wrap up pretty quick here because we're getting close to game time.
We can miss the first couple minutes. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. We'll just have Mahomes throw a couple touchdowns. But yeah, go on about this one.
That was pretty much it. I mean, you had Punk and Drew beating the shit out of each other, and maybe it wasn't to the violence that you wanted, Donnie, which I don't know how you fucking hate on AEW when all they do is violence with some of their matches.
There's the best way that I can explain it is there was no God kind of spot in that match. There was no this is awesome spot in that match, as much as fans want to overuse that to oblivion. But there was no spot in that match where I was like, holy shit, this is getting good. It was a good match. But it was story driven. It was story driven violence. That's fine. And I think,
versus
I hope,
violence for violence.
their third match at Bad Blood, which will be the blow-off, will be the most violent. I think it's been escalating at least a little bit in the matches. And I would be very surprised if there is no blood, intentional blood, I would say, in
I
that
think
third
it's
match.
guaranteed this is a Hell in a Cell, and I think it's the most understandable use of Hell in a Cell since they stopped doing the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I mean, you can make the argument that Edge and Finn needed Hell in a Cell, but you could also make the argument that Finn should have won that match, which is not really an argument. He should have. But it's gonna be a violent match. I can't wait for it. I'm sure that Punk's probably gonna win that one. Maybe they do a Hell in a Cell and a loser leaves the brand to stop all of the shit that's happening because Adam Pearce can't fucking stop his people. So maybe that's what happens. Let's see what's next, boys.
Well, the other match that I think could very well be a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood would be the result from the next match, which was Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley beating Dirty Dom and Liv Morgan. Unfortunately, Rhea didn't do her pretzel pin, as she called it on the post show, to Dominic, like the podcast called, but she did do it to Liv. To much discussion on the internet, of course.
When Dom was dating Rhea, he was in that position all the time.
But I could very well see Rhea versus Liv in Hell in a Cell as well. And I said that like a while back when we were talking about like the build up for Bad Blood inevitably being Hell in a Cell. And like I think this feud with like how much Judgment Day's been getting involved and how much Dominic specifically has been getting involved and keeps Damian Priest out too. Like this match, this inevitable Rhea versus Liv rematch, it could very easily be a Hell in a Cell match too.
Or two, I feel like, and I know that you're a big fan of this one, Pierce. I feel like if you want to break out for the first time in a long time, a female dog collar match to see not only who gets the belt, but who gets to be the other chick's bitch. That, I would think,
the Dominic
would
on
be.
a pole match.
Want to do a shout out to Vince McMahon?
Oh no!
It can be a Lumberjill match.
Oh no! No! Not that. Please no. There's no reason for that.
I could have said a worse stipulation.
Yeah. When you said Vince McMahon, I was really worried about what dark places you were going down.
Like an HLA match or something.
You were thinking bra and panties, weren't you, Donnie?
No, I wasn't.
There's
no reason for that, but maybe like a dog food match.
I'd agree with both those.
A mud wrestling match.
Oh God.
Dom got a hell of a shiner from this match.
Yep, he did.
I feel like every match Dom's been getting, and he's been getting more and more work done to him, which, I mean, it's good for you, right? I feel like, if anything, it just gives Dom a little bit more of that street cred, you know?
It does, as long as he doesn't get seriously injured from it. Like, guy's been doing work, and I hope he continues doing the work that he's doing, because I'm very sports entertained by his work. But yeah, he has been getting beat up a bit. He's always been the guy to get beat up, though. I always remember that segment that he had back with the Monday Night Messiah, where him and Murphy just beat the shit out of him with the canes when he was tied up in the ropes. It's like 2020. Like, that was brutal. That was like one of the only spots that I remembered in like at that time when I was first getting back into WWE, where like, oh my God, they're actually like beating the hell out of this guy. But yeah, he always takes some weird hits and has some marks, some shiners, and as a result, he had his arm slinged up for a while there, a couple months back. Yeah, it was a good match. I think Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley are a good combo. I think Dominic and Liv are also a good combo. It was a fun match, and does that result make it think it's more possible that Liv wins again? Or are we still thinking Rhea's going to come back and regain her title?
Put it this way, if Rhea doesn't regain her championship, I don't know where she really goes from there. You know, where does Rhea Ripley go if she loses the match that they inevitably will have down the road for the women's world title again?
Well, the
I
answer to
mean,
that is the Pure Fusion Collective.
oh god. We could. We'll talk about that on another episode because we're burning daylight here. But holy shit! Don't get me started on the PFC, fucking pure fuckery. Ugh,
That's
disgusting.
honestly the
Fusion
first
Collective.
heel set I could
Hate
think
that
of
name.
on Raw for the women, which is kind of lacking, admittedly. But yeah, we'll see what happens in their match should that happen. We'll also see if we finally get Damian versus Finn. They really seem to be dragging that one out too. We'll get that match at some point. Main event. This was the match of the night, not Punk versus Drew. This was a banger. Gunther defeats
You want
Randy
to try
Orton.
that one more time, Donnie?
Sorry, a
You
banger.
want to try back? Yeah.
It's a banger.
A banger.
Banger. Yeah. Did I say it wrong?
And you said it. That's. I'll leave it at that, buddy. It was a banger.
It was a banger.
I
Thank
liked
you.
how you said it, Donnie.
Thank you. Thank you. That's okay. I deserve the chirps.
Oh,
I give them
sure.
out. I get the chirps back too. It's fair. All's fair.
I appreciated the attempt.
It was a banger. Is that better? Wow. Okay, your silence says more than your words ever could.
I had to do something on my laptop. I apologize. That was better.
I bet. Gunther beats Randy Orton. Match was almost 35 minutes. The end of the match was by another sleeper finish by Gunther. So I don't know if this is now going to be his actual finishing move because he's now won the title and defended the title with the sleeper. And then after the match, Randy Orton shook Gunther's hand in a sign of respect.
Meat slapping.
It was a meat.
Slapping goodness.
Man, fucking Randy Orton is huge. They were talking on Twitter how he's like 285, but then he said he actually weighed like right around 300 by the time the match started. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, he is carrying. It's crazy. I like Randy now because I feel like Randy's in the stage of his career where he just doesn't really give a fuck anymore. Like, I mean, he clearly gives a fuck, right? He delivered in that match, and it was so weird seeing Gunther in a position in a one-on-one match where he was that vulnerable and where he was getting picked apart the way he was, like very Randy Orton-esque, very much what you expect from Randy. However, it's like an older, more calculated Randy Orton now. Like he's not as vicious. I'll say he's vicious, but he's definitely he's very wizened and he's using his tools of his age more to his advantage. Like he's putting the weight on more. He's not trying to stay lean like he was, but he's using that to his advantage. Like he's meaty, you know, like he's changing his game up to kind of suit the ravages that time have been putting on his body, you know, since he's in his early 40s now. And he's, you know, either he's just eating better or he's, you know, taking his vitamins and saying his prayers, brother, or whatever the fuck's going on in that man's life. But I mean,
he's mid 40s now. He is 44.
Oh my gosh. And that's so weird to think about too, because like I remember, you know, early 2000 SmackDown when he had his first like televised match against Lesnar pre WWE Championship, and like they were the two like, you know, bright-eyed baby faces coming in who were just going to take over someday.
I don't
here
know
we are
if Lesnar was a blue-eyed baby face.
Well, he had blue eyes. To my knowledge, he still has blue eyes.
I don't think those have
And
changed.
he had his face was quite shaved like a baby, but he also F5'd a shark that one time.
Yeah,
so
and I'm pretty sure he eats baby deer for breakfast.
I think he
Did you see he beheaded a bear? He skinned a bear with his bare hands, I bet.
He fucking like just like his farmland, he doesn't even need the like farm equipment. I think he just does all that shit by his hands and gets it done within an hour.
He is the true alpha male of our species.
South Dakota upbringing.
One of one. No one is like Brock Lesnar.
Nope.
No one's like Randy Orton either, honestly.
No.
And people talk about
No one's
how.
like Gunther either, man.
No, you're right.
Let's give Gunther some flowers here because that man. I was talking about it with Marta like during the match when we were watching it. Like that man, that the transformation that Gunther put on, like he was a guy who was great internationally, was great in NXT, but you knew by looking at him, like realistically, this is not a guy that the main roster is going to push to the moon looking the way Gunther did when he was in NXT UK. And
honestly, if Triple H was in charge back then, I would say there would be a chance because even as Walter, he was such a unique presence. But it would have to
sure,
be Triple H booking the show. Vince would have been like,
but I
"Oh,
even
it's
mean like for
back."
just the masses being able to like buy into him a bit more. Um, he totally transformed himself over I don't almost overnight. Like he was it was maybe like 6 months, 6 to 8 months where he just cut and cut and cut and looks way better than he did before, but is still just as brutal, just as physical, just as skilled, just as powerful, and he's a
What if
wrecking
Sheamus was
ball.
giving him pointers?
He's
I
a
feel like
wrecking
that's
ball.
maybe that's part of their early connection there. That was kind of like, like how Triple H was Sheamus's workout buddy, and that's how they had their early feud. Well, maybe, Sheamus. I mean, Sheamus knows what it's like to fight against age and to fight against all these variables and to keep cut. Like, look at him where he is now, 4 months from when he came back, is, little heavy set, from
Burger
his
after
neck injury and
burger
everything.
after burger.
Yeah. Yeah. He's eating bean burgers now, man. Have you seen him like posting up on the gram?
Yeah.
Guy shredded. He's right back to where he was, damn near.
Yeah. He
And it's
called it
crazy too. Yeah, sure did. Well, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about Gunter too, and it's crazy, and it's a credit to him really, when you have Michael Cole talking about Gunter as the future of the WWE, as the future of the business, and he's 37. So that's really a testament in my mind, because you think of guys who are 37. Donnie, are you 37?
Yes.
I hope I'm not.
Yes. Yes.
So prep your nerves for this one,
very
Donnie.
carefully.
But no, I'll be there too. It'll take a nap or two, but I'll be right there. But like, I mean, I think of like you think of 37 as like getting up there, and especially in a
in a
sport
professional
or an
athlete.
activity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like
Yeah,
37 for me, guy sitting on the couch doing my 9 to 5, whatever, right? But like,
right.
an athlete at the peak of their performance, 37 is like the twilight years. Maybe not in professional wrestling, but in a lot of major sports, it absolutely. In some cases, it's like just straight up retirement, right? Like, not many
Well,
NFL guys go into their late 30s outside the QB
right.
position and some kickers.
But then consider how long Gunter's been wrestling too. And consider he's been traveling all around the world. Like he was big in like Germany, Europe, right? WXW, etc. But he was still doing other big indie shows. Like he was going around the States, Europe, and he. Yeah.
I'm just saying some of the stuff that he was doing. Progress, WCPW. He was going all around Europe.
Yep. Yeah, he was putting in miles on his body and geographically speaking. And to see him now at 37 better than he's ever been with, a tank and a half going forward, man, like it's crazy just to see. And I think it's really just a testament too to like pro wrestling in general and how it's just morphed for the better for the competitors over these last like 15, 20 years because right. That's one of the big reasons, as a slight tangent, I never jumped into it myself. Is like I wanted to do it when I was a kid, teenager, through college. But you hear of guys dying, predictions and things like that, or getting really seriously injured and not getting shit for compensation, no health insurance, nothing like that. Like it's enough to make you not want to even consider it. But then here now you have the business arguably in a better spot than it's ever been, and good for anyone who's thinking about jumping into it now, and good for the guys who are, repping the industry in general, like Gunter, who, even in spite of having done it for as long as he has, for as much as he's been doing, being able to be called the future and with confidence,
Yeah, Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like a little bit of a renaissance in that sense for WWE, where again talking about Vince no longer being there. Look at some of the top guys that have been more recently pushed on WWE television. You got Gunther, who's 37. You got Damian Priest, who cashed in Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, was world champion at 40. And you've got LA
Yep.
Knight, who a lot of people would have said, well, a lot of people, Vince McMahon would have said he's too old to go anywhere. Did say he's too old to get anywhere, so that's why he's going to be a manager. And
Yep.
Who's gonna fire
now
him? Who's
the
gonna
crowds are
marry
clamoring for him on a
Gunther?
weekly basis and have for over a year.
Yeah.
So
AJ Styles is 46. Like Christian Cage is 48, right? Like it's crazy. Like it's not like a young man's game necessarily anymore. It's cool to see,
But whose
but
game is it?
with everybody saying, "Come on, everybody!"
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
Hey.
night. Yeah,
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 Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Thanks. Yep. Thanks for
Yeah.
doing that for me.
yeah.
Thanks, Marta. I heard that.
Shout out Marta.
Shout
Oh,
out
yeah.
to Marta.
There you go.
Marta and the cat.
That basically wraps up our show, though.
I do want to say about that Randy and Gunther match.
Yeah,
It was 20 years, almost to the day, from when Randy won his first world title that he got to wrestle for another one, which is kind of insane to think. But to me, that like handshake at the end was kind of a passing of the torch
yeah,
from one crazy psychotic heel in Randy Orton. I mean, shaved head Randy Orton is one of the scariest heels of all time.
yep,
And now you get
Yeah.
the crazy psychotic heel who's not an asshole per se, but when you step into the ring with him, you die.
yep,
I,
yep.
So,
I was I was about to talk about another crazy psychotic asshole who Randy Orton shook hands with 20 years ago after winning his first world championship.
well, he's crazy and
And
psychotic for a different reason.
right.
Not
So-
shout out to Hulk Hogan for what he said on Impulsive this week.
Oh boy.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck, man?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no comment to that either. I mean,
I don't want to know
that's
where he
another
thought
podcast.
anybody was glamorizing Chris Benoit at all, or forgiving Chris Benoit. Like, what fucking rock does this
You
guy
had-
live under?
I mean, you have it's weird, right? You have your little pockets of people that you pay attention to. You get this little microcosm and you blow it up into thinking that it's much bigger than it actually is. Like I've seen it where people are like, "Well, I don't respect what Chris Benoit did, but I think he should go in the Hall of Fame because he was the best wrestler ever." Da-da-da. You know, and I'm like, he killed his fucking wife and his fucking son.
Oh,
Let's
Paul
not
Heyman
forget
said it
about this
best.
now.
Paul Heyman said it best. 3 people died. 1 person had the choice. It does
Yeah.
not matter about CTE. It does not matter about steroid abuse. 3 people died. 1 had the
Chris
choice.
Benoit.
Fuck that guy.
Yep.
And even
Yeah.
after he said that, he said, as a performer, he's one of the top 5 Paul Heyman had ever seen in his life. But it does not matter as a performer because
Fuck
he's
him
a
still.
fucking murderer.
Fuck him still. Agreed.
You could come up with 100 alibis and explanations as for what he did and why he did it and what the variables
No.
were that factored.
No.
But
Fuck
one fact remains: he's blacked out, and we should never speak about that anymore,
Yeah. Hopefully,
except in like
yeah, and
very
hopefully,
specific context.
yeah, the only specific context where somebody randomly brings it up like an idiot and we can laugh at how stupid they are and then also say, fuck that guy again.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan, noted racist, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, we're basically wrapping up here. Really quickly,
Yeah,
I mean, we were hemming and hawing about talking about No Mercy, which also happened on Sunday. The couple takeaways that we can take from that: Fraxium are champions again. Ridge Holland did another turn. Zach Wentz actually beat Wes Lee, which was surprising. I don't think any of us called that because we didn't think a TNA guy was going to win. But shout out Zachary Wentz, hell of a cutter too for a finisher.
Great for repping the X Division Championship the way he did too. Loved seeing the X Division Championship on a WWE show. That was surreal.
Kalani Jordan defeated Wendy Chu, which is not really a surprise. Ope-Eh beat Tony D in another classic Ope-Eh match. Roxanne beat Jada, not a surprise. Julia makes her debut post-match, also not really a surprise. They are seemingly running that match, though, next week, which seems quite soon. I didn't think they were going to
I
run it
thought
that
it was
quick.
like the first week of October. They said they were doing it.
No, they're doing it the CW episode, right? You're right. You're
CW
right.
premiere.
You're right. CW premiere. Sorry, excuse me, because I confused it with
With
USA
Canadian
is
Wednesday,
USA is
the CW
doing
in
this
Canada.
USA is doing this thing next week where they're limiting commercials across all three of their shows because it's the first week where they have all three shows on USA. And I thought it was tied in with that. But you're right, it was CW. My mistake. So you got at least a couple more weeks for that. And then Ethan Page retains over Joe Hendry with some fuckery. But yeah, it was a good show.
Shout out Trick Williams dropping a diss track in a wrestling feud. That's awesome.
And we got what's their next event? Did they have? Probably Halloween Havoc, right? Or no, or maybe they have one
Yeah.
before then. I feel like it's Halloween.
I think
Halloween
Halloween Havoc's up. Yeah, Halloween Havoc's up next.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
those CW shows are big because it's Chicago and St. Louis.
true. So they do have two big shows at the beginning of October, which will
Punk's
probably
Punk and
have
Orton.
and then Orton's going to be on the show for one of them.
yeah. So they'll probably have like at least one, maybe two title matches on each of those shows.
I'm sure somebody's eating a GTS and somebody, like 4 people, are going to eat an RKO. So
I need to see Roxanne Perez slap CM Punk in the face.
that's her dad, though, man.
No, you gotta get that heel Roxanne working a bit better. She's doing good work in the ring, but the heel's still not the easiest thing to believe. Slap him in the face. I'm calling that.
I concur.
Thank you. I know you're defending your boy Punk again, but
I'm not defending him. I'm just saying.
you just don't want to see him get slapped in the face.
Dad.
Yeah, but sometimes kids slap their dads in the face.
I think Punk's going to try to hug her first for no reason. Just come up with a hat on, dad gear, hugging her like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." Smiles at him. Wham!
Yeah.
Swerves us all. I think that's how it happens.
There we go. Book it.
Yeah. Book it, Sean.
Anything else you guys want to talk about before we sign off?
Go Pack, go!
Yeah, go Pack, go!
In Brazil.
We got
really. I'll be watching.
You got to see Bryan Danielson do Final Countdown entrance. That was pretty sick. And he kicked the guy's head in twice because we asked him to, which is also pretty cool.
Was it Anthony Ogogo? It kind of looked like Anthony Ogogo.
It just looked like a young boy, like a young lion.
Very well could. It was either Anthony Ogogo or a young boy. / young lion. Young elite.
I said this once, I'll say it again. All wrestling is good wrestling. Right now, both companies are cooking, especially after the show that me and Brandon went to yesterday. So I just want to say,
All In was a great show, all things considered. So
yeah.
I like getting on my high horse, bitching about things on this show because we can't just circle jerk everything that we see. I don't think that makes for necessarily interesting listening.
Right, and I agree, and that's why the dynamic of our quote unquote gimmicks is you and me, shit talking each other, and Brandon, going off on his tangents in fucking Brandon land.
Sure do.
But All In was a good show. I will say that. So shout out to both companies for doing some good stuff. Not shout out for not doing as good stuff as we would like all the time, but that's how the entertainment industry goes in that sense. That's how the wrestling industry goes. So we'll stay tuned. We'll keep talking about it. We'll be here next week, back on Wednesday, so posted on Thursday. That's right? I'm not forgetting something.
No. Next week's back to normal, but it's going to be hopefully the start of the rivalry series. I would like to make that a legit series because I think it would be a fun to deep dive into stuff like that.
Okay,
And maybe eventually we do the deep dives into older pay-per-view reviews like I wanted to do too. I think that'd be fun. But it's all just a learning process. This is episode 8, and I just want to say, boys, I think we're consistently getting better each episode, genuinely. And
today was fun. Like I've had fun on other shows, but like just the comfort level that we're bantering about this stuff and how we're bouncing from thing to thing, like we're figuring it out. Could we up our production value a little bit? Yeah, I probably could get on some editing and put in some stuff here and there. I might be
Got to
looking
get us a soundboard.
doing that. I'll have to start with a digital one to start. I don't want to spend a pile of money on a soundboard, but
All right, no, I'm just saying we can make it work. We can make it work within a budget. I'm sure.
I need Metalingus to start the show for my segment, then we'll go from there.
It's, yeah, we're having a good one on these, I think. So I hope everyone, wherever you are, is enjoying what we're putting out. Expect more from us, a little bit more variety, a little bit more, hopefully some production value improvements. Definitely a lot more Austin Theory references.
Well,
Yep.
I mean,
Just stack them up. Stack them
2
up.
out of 3 ain't bad, Donnie. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
No, we're getting all 3 of those. We're getting all 3.
You're getting
Oh, it's
2
going
out
to
of
be real good. It's going to be real good at the end of it. You'll see. Watch it. He's going straight to the moon, boy.
Unless you guys have anything else, you want to send us off on our way?
As always, follow us on X/Twitter and Facebook. Putting some more posts up on there. Brandon always has a fun one right before the pod. I enjoyed my last one saying we were on a European vacation, so we're starting to get more comfortable with all this. Like I said, I think we're getting consistently better, and we hope more of you listen. And we appreciate any of the listeners for listening at all. I know a couple of my friends are listening. I hope some of Donnie's and Brandon's friends are listening as well.
Shout out Michael.
Shout out Petey and Jordan. Brandon, you guys, anybody shout out?
I'm thinking I could shout out Austin. Maybe I can shout out Brian if he's out there listening. Maybe I can shout out
Marta.
Hops.
Another shout out to Marta.
Shout out Marta. Yeah, that's her second shout out, but she deserves all the shout outs.
Yep. Marta, you hear that? And the cat. What's your cat's name again, Don?
Shout out Fred and Alfie.
Shout out Fred and
Hell
Alfie.
yeah. Hell yeah, Fred and Alfie.
But as always, thanks for stopping into the Ope-Eh 3-Way. Have a beer on us. We'll see you guys next time.
Go Pack, go.